Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is another episode of Financial Life, and I'm your host, Matt Dillingham. And real quick, do my shameless promotion before I get into it with my special guest here today. As you know, we help people with some things like financial literacy, credit, other stuff like that. If you would like to get more information or like help with that, you can book a call with me going to speakwithmatt.info. Again, speakwithmatt.info. That's all you gotta do. And this episode is sponsored by, I say brought to you, sponsored by Born to Risk, one of the co-authors of the book, Chapter 39. Please, if you like the copy, reach out to me. With that being said, today I have a special guest on. Someone I've known for since what, 2013-ish, something like that. It's been a
Oh,
while.
over
Yeah,
10 now.
man. Yeah, someone I've admired, looked up to has been I've been mentored and coached by myself personally, and always has great stories. So he's been through a lot. So Abram Gonzalez, I welcome you to being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
So the question I have is, where should we start? Because I know you, and I know you always have great stories, but like, where should we start? Well, like, what's your origin point into where you are, where you're at now? Because I know at one point you, I don't know the story. Like you were in a cult at one point, and you talked about that, and there's Power Network. We're all involved with that, and then that, disappeared. Then you did some other things with Inspiraction, and now you're like popping up, not you, popping up babies, and then you're doing a podcast and a business, and it's like, yo, this guy's like a superhero amongst men. I swear.
You know what's funny? I was chatting with a friend of mine the other day, Ashley, and we talk about the origin story kind of deal. And
Yeah.
she, meeting so many new people over the years. I'm kind of in a place where I'm tired of telling my own origin story, and I felt
Right.
that so deeply with her
Mm.
because we used the stories and the storytelling back in the day, like when we met. The purpose of telling the story was to sell.
Yeah.
And stories sell ideas, they sell products, they sell services. Stories are an important part of that. But I also feel like we really dressed up some pigs and kind of danced them around.
Yeah.
The story just sounds really, really good when you rehearse it a lot
Hmm.
and you
Yeah.
tweak it and you see how people react to it. Uh,
Uh-huh.
But I would just say, it's been a long journey of internet marketing, and I've done a lot of different things over that time, both for myself, for other businesses, for other authors and leaders in different spaces. But everything has kind of led to this point now where I'm sitting on some really incredible skill sets that have allowed me to build an agency that we run from home,
Yep.
helping contractors, local like service-based businesses earn more business through Google. And, I wouldn't be able to do what we do now without collecting some of the skill sets specifically around digital marketing, but also around, we've learned so much about human psychology,
Mm.
right? The place where you and I came from, we learned a lot about sales, and that is so much about persuasion and human psychology. And
Yeah.
so taking all of that forward, it's been much easier to build a team. We have a small team at Digital Harvest that does all the work. And you know, eh, the stuff that we learn just keeps showing up in ways that are more applicable. Raising a family. It's like my son's now old enough. My first son's now old enough where like he's talking a lot. There's almost zero like baby talk now.
Mm.
And it's all real words, and the sentences are starting to get longer.
Yeah.
And there's things that we learned in leadership that are now applicable for my son. One of the principles that's coming up all the time is, you know, it's important for me to allow him and give him the space to fail on things.
Yeah.
And also, like when he asks me for help the first time, doing my best to encourage him to like just give it a shot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's important.
And then
Mhm.
paying attention to what you see as the right behaviors, the ones that you want to encourage,
Yeah.
right? And then kind of ignoring the behaviors that you don't want to see grow.
Yeah.
We learned all of that with our time at Empower Network 10 years ago in leadership and how you grow a team and how you work with
Man.
your team members, right? You praise the things that you want them to continue to do and do at a higher level. And then you just kind of ignore any of the negativity, any of the drama, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like, man, things are just really coming full circle. And so I know that was the very glossy version of my story with zero details, but I
Right.
think it's good enough.
It is. It is good. I can't believe it's been 10 years since the Power Network.
Hmm.
That was a wild ride. Don't know if we'll get into that today, but we did
Yeah.
learn a lot in that business and a company. I remember we had you on as a guest. I know when Google Hangouts, if is that still around anymore?
The product still exists.
It still exists.
Yeah. Yeah. The product
Yeah,
is,
we had you on with at the time. Was it Nikki Magdalena? Or I was like, oh my God, they're on our podcast or thing or hangout, whatever. And one thing I want to discuss in the short amount of time we have, one thing I learned from you, and this something that I learned in my own coaching, I learned a higher level on it from somebody else, was the power of asking questions. I remember this very specifically from you, and one of your was a coaching program you had about asking the universe questions and how questions give you evidence of whatever you're asking about. Like, can you like talk about that and why people should be way more aware of what they're asking and go, well, if you're trying to have X, Y, and Z, she asking questions to get you X, Y, and Z and not getting A, B, C.
yeah. I'm so glad you bring it up. It's one of my favorite topics, and I don't get to talk about it very often. So
You're
super
welcome.
excited.
See, told you.
Yeah. Yeah. So ask and you shall receive is in the Bible. People talk about it all the time.
Yep.
But I think what people miss is both the spiritual side of ask and you shall receive and the practical, pragmatic side. And I think that maybe what stuck out for you 10 years ago was that we attached the spiritual part to the actual pragmatic, how your brain works and how
Hmm.
things operate in this reality. And you can use questions both internally, right? As a coaching tool, you can use them externally
Hmm.
to influence and motivate others. And then you can use them with a higher power in order to access and ask for things that maybe are beyond what you could conceive right now. And so I think the thing that's really unique about this perspective is if you spent any time learning or looking at and practicing the law of attraction, we talk about visualization and carving out that vision of what you want. And that is a useful, powerful tool. At the same time, you want to take an active approach and an interest and a curiosity about what could be possible for you. So I'll give you an example. It's like a lot of times people will want to, let's say get fit,
Yep.
right? We want to get fit. Fitness journey, everybody can kind of like relate to that. You can visualize yourself crossing the finish line in a certain amount of time after all your preparation and this and that. Okay. And at the same time, in your journey, you're going to be challenged during some of your training runs. You're going to be challenged, in your nutrition, in your sleep, at your home, in your relationships. Like these things come up and they might get in the way of your goals. In the moments of frustration, in the moments where it feels like you're getting off track, asking a simple question like, well, how is this serving me right now?
Oh my
Right.
God, it's very powerful. I asked
Yeah,
that.
just like,
It
yeah,
is.
just like,
People don't think about it. Like I'll ask, how is this for me? And you keep doing it and you press into it, you'll get an answer. But
yeah.
people don't get that. You're like, what do you mean? How's it serving? Like, yes, like, and this changes from this happening to me to happening for me. So you go from being the victim to, oh, I'm still in control.
Hmm. And like in this example, your brain is working overtime now because of the obstacle,
Yeah.
and it's just seeing the problem. And so oftentimes, like the question you can use to change the direction that your mind is going and say like, look over here, like let's explore what's over here.
Sounds like a
Oh,
child. Come
exact. I was just gonna say that
here.
misdirection, redirection is your best friend
Right.
with small kids because you say, hey, let's look over here. Isn't this cool? And then they forget the thing they were fixating on, right?
Yes, it works as kids. You're like, oh yeah.
I'm telling you, man, everything is coming full circle. And so that's
Yeah.
the pragmatic side of
Yeah.
asking questions. We used to talk about power questions and
Oh
just a whole slew
yeah.
of different fun things that you could ask. The question is basically, unlimited in terms of the direction that you can point your consciousness when you ask it. And the real reason that it works is because so much of your mind is working to find a conclusion to something. It's
Mhm.
working to crystallize this vision for you. It's trying to set in stone what it's going towards, which is fine for manifestation, but there's also always something different available to you, possibly even better. And so having the question to be able to say, like, this is one that we talked about a lot 10 years ago. What else is possible here? Right?
I remember that.
What else is possible? Or like a really another one that just super useful that people sleep on it is like, well, how can I? Like you're
Yeah,
with
that one.
the
Yeah.
impossible, right? I want to do this thing. It's way outside my budget, but I really want to do it. How can I? And like that first time you ask it, you get the brick wall first, right?
It's like what? Yeah, exactly. The Deborah Wall. You're like,
Ask again, give it days, give it weeks, keep asking. And then like sometimes you will get that answer, but other times you will be presented with the answer, right?
yeah,
I think that's kind of cool too because you're getting this dual feedback. Sometimes it's higher power and your intuition coming in, responding to that, getting you the answer. Sometimes there's no answer on the other side of it, but it's just an openness to see what happens. And other times reality shifts and bends, and then it shows up right in front of you and it's saying, "You asked, here I am."
right. Yep, it's true. And we are always getting like what we're asking for. It's just that, and up until that moment, and you talk about your questions, we're not aware of the fact that we're asking questions all the time, either in our minds or out loud, or simply asking. I think you made this example too, where you said when you ask something like, "Why is this happening to me now?" Like, "Oh, what else could go wrong?" And "Oh, why is that?" It's like you don't want to ask that because at that moment in time when you're so emotionally charged up to what's happening, your mind's gonna go, "Oh, is that what you want? Okay, let's get more bullshit and more and more and more." And you keep asking, it's like, stop,
Yeah.
turn the ship around because it's not going to be instant in a lot of cases, but turn it around, change your focus, and then you start to see things start to change because of, again, the question you're asking, your awareness, and more importantly, your focus. So that I was like, this is so powerful stuff. Wow. And asking questions, and literally you'll get answers at some point, should you be consistent with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like the only tool that will always work for you because it's so simple and you can make it your own and just come up with different creative ways to ask for what you want. I notice this a lot with team members, with people that I meet networking, with basically every walk of life. People come up against some problem, right? And I go, and they're like, "Hey, Avram, can you help me with whatever?" And so if you know me, I will respond back often either in silence because I'm like, don't fucking waste my time. Just Google the shit, right? Or I will say,
Right.
did you Google it? What did you find? Well, I did, and I couldn't find anything. I went through all these videos, da, 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 and I go, no, what did you Google? What did you
Mhm.
put in there? Right? They tell me what they put in there, and it's like, oh, you were asking the wrong question.
Yep.
You were asking the wrong question. You got a whole bunch of results that didn't even apply to what you were trying to do. And it could be the difference in just like terminology. Um, I wish I could recall the example like from 2 days ago. My wife Rachel was looking for something, right? And oh, okay, you know the platform Kajabi,
Yep.
right? You can put courses and stuff on there. So she had downloaded a potty learning course because we're gonna be doing that soon. Okay, in Kajabi, and so I had to like log in into my phone and get it in there. And then her question was like, "Well, I have two courses in there because she had bought something else before. How how do I get the other one on here?" She was typing in something that was just a little bit off. She didn't use the word app in her query. So it's I typed in how do I access multiple courses
Right.
in my Kajabi app. Her search terms are pulling up how do course creators create multiple courses in the Kajabi app with the same course,
Wow.
right? So she was looking at all this info over here, but the correct search term was over here. And I think a life is a lot like that too. You can spend your time asking, like, why does all this bullshit showing up? And then
Mm-hmm.
you realize I've been asking the wrong question. And that's one thing I think Google and like search engines now are a funny manifestation of how this actually works in real life.
So let's get so what do you how do you feel about when you're talking about something to somebody and then Facebook is like, hey, here's an ad of that thing you're talking about. Or it's
I
like
think,
too
yeah.
accurate.
Well, I think some of the magic of life is being broken by technology.
Yeah.
And, some people say that, they're listening, right? These apps are listening to us. And I actually don't think that they need to listen in order to find and serve you with ads that are creepily on point.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that we do subconsciously without even thinking about it that are directly correlated with particular actions that happen right after. I'll give you an example. So, like when I go grab a certain pair of shoes, my dog knows that it's time to go for a walk. And I didn't realize for a long time that the shoes were the trigger. And
You're
I was like, why is my dog like so psychic? My dog isn't fucking psychic, okay?
right.
My dog noticed that the same pair of shoes goes on before every walk every single time. All
You're
that to say, we do things that are
yeah,
like that when your browser history is being tracked, when your phone location is being tracked, they can piece all the data together to know exactly what you're at the store shopping for right now.
exactly.
There's no mystery about the fact that you're not at home, that you're at a store, that we know all this other data about you anyway. What are you there for right now?
At this particular time of the month, every other week or 2 days, whatever, you're mostly getting this. Every now and then, there's some random item you may buy randomly. It's all this data. You're right on the dog thing because we got a dog and she like knows when it's time to go for I can't say right now WALK.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, now that makes sense. Like knows when I get certain things, oh, like, oh, it's time to go. But
Yeah.
but here's the thing though. I don't know how I made this happen, but like at night, it's like 9 o'clock, 9:30, whatever. I'll be sitting there watching something, and then she'll be looking at the window, and I swear, every night gets up, turns around, looks at me, and sits, and I'm like, really? And she's like, kind of palming. It's like time to go. And I'm like, how do you do?
Yeah.
I trained her. I don't know how it happened, but she just does it now. I'm like, okay, let's go and just. It's
Yeah.
crazy. You're
Yeah.
right on that. You're right on that.
Yeah. Well, the time changes and then they're looking at you because it's time to eat, you know.
Yeah.
On the money, they're looking at you. It's like, well, we're 1 hour before.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, you got the time nailed.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking about digital marketing real quick, with all that's gone on right now with just marketing's changed so much since before social media, when social media hit, and now, especially with the pandemic, like what are like some quick tips you can give people in business, whether it be the ones that you currently serving your target audience or just people in business in general? Like what could they do about when it comes to like they're trying to post content on Facebook, YouTube, whatever you can share, because this is like
Oh,
your
yeah.
specialty.
I think it starts with what your goals are. One of the things that frustrates me a lot is seeing that people are all hyped up on social media and how powerful it is to grow your business, and even like the plumber is all hyped up on social media. And I'm like, so what's your goal with advertising? I want to make money. Okay, so why are you posting on social media as a plumber trying to make money? Nope, nobody is going, like, it doesn't matter what you put on there. People are not gonna like buy from you because of what you put on there. Throw a piece of content at me that a plumber could put up that would make people be like, yes, it is time to buy from this plumber. They might sponsor some events in town. You're like, oh, that's great. They might
Yeah,
be giving the community like that. That's all awesome. But that does not directly translate to dollars and cents and top line revenue for the business. It
right.
just does not. Right. So if the goal is to make money, what are the things that directly translate to making money? The services that we offer, right? I'm giving you the example that goes right into what we do. And
Yep.
this is a frustration that I have with clients is, well, they're not our clients. Our clients are with us because they know where the dollars and cents are, and they're
Right,
like,
right.
"Yeah, we need this, right?" But
Right.
when I see the competitors of our clients, instead of doing what we're doing with Google search, instead of doing that, they're doing social media. I'm like, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
The money is just not there. It's cool. People love how cool social media is. Oh my God, I could be an
Yeah.
influencer, even if it's just a micro influence. Like people are looking at me, the attention, right?
Yep.
Listen, it doesn't pay the bills. It's a branding activity.
Mm,
Branding is different than advertising. Advertising directly ties to the dollars and cents that you receive in your business. Branding, you can never attribute any of the money or the halo effect that it gives to anything that you're doing. It will supercharge what you are doing. But if you take anything and multiply it by zero, it is still zero.
right.
Right. So I think it starts with knowing what your goal is and then making sure that the channels that you're picking and the strategy that you're picking is in alignment with those goals. I think that is the number one thing because you need to make the most out of every single dollar that you put out there. The point of deploying marketing dollars is to get dollars back.
Correct.
So, like, I love when companies spend 80, 90% of their money on advertising and things that get them money right now. And they spend the other 10, 20% building their brand up over time. And you do
Right.
that really, really well with social media in a way where in the past you had to do it with all outdoor advertising and outdoor media, right? Like billboards, signage, on TV, on the radio, things like that. Now, digital, you can do so much branding and get so much reach through social media. That's like the new version of TV and radio, and it has
Yeah.
been for a while now. But the reach is better. It's more trackable and attributable. Like you can actually find that somebody that came through a Facebook ad 6 months ago converted into a customer. Like you can find that now,
Yeah.
but you can't find that through the billboard that you put up. You can't find that as easily through the radio ad that you put up.
No.
So I think that's just some of the big stuff that's really changing and what's important. I got a plug for my podcast there. I did an episode on the Babies in Business podcast, episode 28, 29, 31, 32 is an entire series on strategic planning and picking the right strategy and informing it with data. Okay. So Rachel and I did that at the beginning of this year because we had run our podcast for 30 something episodes. And we were like, how do we double our downloads and spend half as much time?
Mm,
And so we workshopped that problem. We talked about it through all 4 episodes of the podcast. And then I'm happy to report that recently we did do that. We were off by seven, I think 7 downloads
oh, wow.
in doubling it, but we achieved our goal. We dropped the workload by half and still managed to double our downloads in like 12 episodes versus the previous 30 something,
Wow.
right? So, but that was all because choosing the right strategy, the right channel, etc., up front, picking the right strategy, and then we mapped it out from there. So that could be a useful thing for your audience here and diving deeper into like, well, what's the right strategy? That one's got some marketing in it. It's not just about podcasting, right? That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about there, but applies to everything else. You take that process framework, work it out for your business, and I think you'll find some magic.
I like that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Um, so for those, no, let me ask you this quick question. So for you, are you only serving like your target audience that you mentioned before, the local contractors, or limited? Are you limited to just your area? Or can you work with them anywhere in the United States?
I can work with people anywhere in the home service trades businesses. So we don't do medical, we don't do finance, we don't do insurance. It is strictly like what you might call the blue collar trades
Gotcha.
and home service businesses. Yeah. And the reason is because they're all more or less emergency related. So, you got a
Yeah.
leak, you're going to call the plumber. You got a leak in the roof, you're going to call the roofer. We
Yeah.
represent those guys really well because as long as they pick up the phone when somebody calls them through Google, we're going to help them make money.
That's right. Yeah, because
Mhm.
those are emergency things that you need at that time. You're not like, hey, plumber, come in and check my plumbing. And we pay like $1,000 just for you to
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah,
No.
no, no.
As far as that goes. How can anyone get a hold of you if they're like, hey, I'm a plumber, or maybe they just want to hire you for some marketing consulting? I don't know if you do that now, but what can they do to like find you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on social media. Like I spend most of my time on like Facebook, Instagram, at Abram Gonzalez. My website for our marketing agency is Digital Harvest. That's digitalharvest.io. There's a contact form on there. There's a phone number. You can always reach us by phone. We do pick up the phone. As long as there's not a baby screaming in the background, I will pick up the phone. But if I'm here in my cozy little outside office in the garage, it's all quiet. Things are great.
Yeah.
No, that's probably the best ways to connect with me. And then, in terms of the content and the stuff that I'm really sharing a lot these days, that's all happening on our podcast, Babies in Business. It's on Apple, Spotify, all those places. That's babiesinbiz.com, the website, all the episodes on there. And we created that podcast. My wife and I co-host it because we just saw the spillover and the overlap between building a business and raising a
Yeah.
family just
Good.
everywhere, and we couldn't stop talking about it, and we're like, let's make a podcast because there's a ton of content out there for building a business.
Right.
There's a ton of content out there for parenting and raising a family, but there's not a lot out there that I found that addresses the acute problems, frustrations, challenges that a family of entrepreneurs encounters when they're also trying to raise some kids at home.
That's a good niche. You married the two. One last question before you go. What's like one last thing you like want to share with people based on from your journey from start to now?
Oh, can you help me narrow that down? Can you ask me a better
Right
question?
question. Okay, fine.
Refine
We'll do
that. Refine that.
that. Well, okay. How can I narrow it down? Just what's like one thing out of your business journey, or let me ask this. Since you got a family, what's like one thing that stood out that you can share that like that a lesson you've learned that relates to pretty much all areas of life that like people you feel like people should know about?
Got it. Got it. You are squandering your time. All right. So pre-kids, all the time that you have right now, you are squandering it. You are wasting it. You are sitting there thinking you are efficient as fuck, and you are wasting so much time on shit that does not matter. So the beautiful thing that happens when you have a family is your time goes to zero.
Hmm.
Okay. And when your time goes to zero and becomes extremely scarce, what do you think you do with all the time that you do have?
You're gonna focus on things that
Squeeze the
matter.
fuck out of it. You
Right.
focus on things that matter, right? I am very proud that I'm celebrating another year around the sun with you this month, right? Leo's in the house.
There we
I'm
go.
very proud, and I'm realizing that I'm living a version of success for myself, which is I'm working like 20 hours a week right now. It is the only time that I have available to work. I don't have any other choice.
Right.
But we are growing in a way this last 2 years that's different than any years previous. We're hitting revenue records that we've never hit before, and I have half the time or less from what I had before. And
Hmm.
it's like having children made me a killer because now I have to make it work. I have to make it work. Right? I have to make it work. Like we have to wrap now so I can go save my wife who's drowning with children waking up from a nap right now. Right? But my
That-
work is done for the day. It's all done.
mm.
And it had to be done before here. So looking back, I laugh. I laugh at the previous version of me who thought that I was just so on fire, focused, killing it, focused on the right things, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't have been more wrong about where I was actually operating from and the value of your actual time. You don't know it until it's constrained. So if you take that principle and you apply it to your money, and you purposely constrain it, you'll find magic. If you apply that to your time and you purposely constrain it, you will find magic. The beautiful thing about the kids, though, is it forces you to do it. You can do a Pomodoro method, you can time block, you can do all this stuff, but
Hmm.
until you have a screaming child that is going to say, you are done, you don't have that same fire and that same motivation to really change things up. So that's what I am learning right now and what I've been experiencing. And the second child just really,
Ramps it up.
Brought that to like another level, and I can't believe it. So tonight we're carving out some extra time for date night. We failed to do that with our first child, and it definitely wore us down over time. Not making the same mistakes this time, but that's like it's like very exciting time now.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, date night, 3 hours. We have 3 hours to each other. You know how much time we had before kids? So much time and so
Right.
much wasted just like watching Netflix and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I see what you're
thank
saying.
you, Matt. Thank
Hey,
you.
thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for sharing a lot.
Absolutely.
It's good. This is good. So we'll have to do a part two, but hey,
Sounds
I need
great.
to bug out. But hey, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, and cheers. Anybody want to connect? Just reach out.